All right, so what we have today are 3 review problems on derivatives and use of derivatives. The first one being at the top here, the second and the third. If you pause me, you can try them, and then I'm going to go through them. I'm going to start by just shrinking down the second one and the third one so we can do the first one. We'll get those out of the way. I think everybody's got them written. All right, we'll bring those back in a second. It says y equals 2 sine 2x. Find the equation of the line at x equals 2 pi. You need a slope and a point. Always do a line. The tangent line is using the derivative at that point. So I will say that I want dy dx at x equals 2 pi. I need that slope of the derivative of that tangent line. I also need the ordered pair, so maybe right away, instead of having x equals 2 pi, I'll use the original function, and I will find the y value. And again, this is in radians. We know from our unit circle, 4 pi, our unit circle, that 4 pi is 2 times around, right? And we know we end up on the coordinate here, which is 1, 0 on the unit circle. So we know the x value is 1. We know the y value is 0. Sine is, therefore, 0. 2 times 0 is 0. So I know my ordered pair on the first one is 2 pi, 0. That is the point on the graph. I'll need that once I determine a slope. I have not even started the derivative at this point. The derivative here for this function is going to have to be the chain rule. We do not know the derivative of sine 2x. We only know the derivative of sine x. And I will do this both ways. I'm going to start by doing it as a u substitution so we all see it. I'm going to say u equals 2x. So dy equals 2 cosine u du, the derivative there of the function. But we also know that du over on this formula is 2 dx. All right? So I do some substitution. Dy equals 2 cosine. And again, I'll substitute 2x back. 2 dx. Divide by dx. And I get dy dx equals 4 cosine 2x.
Wait, is it? Sine's not negative, cosine is positive?
It's positive. Cosine is negative sine.
Cosine is negative sine?
On all 3 trigs, any trig that starts with a c, cosine, cotangent, cosecant, its derivative is negative.
Okay.
All the other ones are positive, if that helps you remember.
Okay, it does.
All right. Now, I don't like doing a u substitution on a problem this easy. So I'm going to box this and do it the other way. All right? And then we will determine the value. I think this is a problem. You guys got to practice enough so this is easy. So I'm going to look at the original problem again, change the u back to 2x. The chain rule says, take the derivative of the function, which is cosine 2x, without changing the inside, times the derivative of the inside. Derivative of the inside is 2. So y prime is 4 cosine 2x. Now I need to evaluate it at 2 pi. So I will plug 2 pi in and get my derivative at 2 pi is equal to 4 cosine. You guys agree 2 pi times 2 is 4 pi? And the reason I left this picture up here of the unit circle is cosine is the 1. So I will tell you the derivative has a slope of 4. So y prime is 4. I now have a point and I now have a slope. I will write in point slope form. Y minus 0, because the value is 0 there, times equals 4 times x minus 2 pi. And there's the equation of the tangent line.
So on our homework, you have point slope form, or you have slope intercept form?
Then
Do
you'd
you
have,
want it to be in point slope form, or do you want it?
well, all right, if it asks for slope intercept, you'll have to do distributing
The y will not, yeah.
and just bring over the value, but this time it was 0. But hey, listen, I never do slope intercept form in South or B. I always do point slope form and distribute. personally. All right. All right. Everybody, you have to be comfortable with the chain rule on the test. We have to be comfortable with our unit circle, at least at the bare minimum. If you get stuck, use your calculator and radians, but we got to get, eventually there's going to be no calculator sections. All right? And that's coming.
Almost.
All right, oops, new page. All right, so I paced the other two problems. Let's finish those. No, I don't. What's going on? And Lily gets to watch me do all kinds of stuff. All right, next two are not nearly as bad. The next one is a chain rule. I am not going to do U substitution. The power comes down 4 times x to the 4th minus 3x squared plus 5. Reduce the power by 1 times the derivative of the inside. The derivative of this stuff. Yep. Minus 6x. We're done. That's the answer.
Do you want to move that to the front and multiply that 4 by the right side?
I almost guarantee on the test Thursday it will say do not simplify.
Okay.
So I will just leave it like this. If you do, it'll be right. All right. AP doesn't do this. You'll use this as transportation without a problem. The AP will not have one this use.
That's fine.
Yep.
I'm saying at the end now, will it clear? Or is there not a single problem like that?
Now, it'll do it one of the ways. It'll put this with the 4. Yeah, it'll go both ways. I think it's in multiple choice. It's possible. But it's easy to see. All right, third one. Now, I made the third one easy today. All right? Because when you start taking derivatives, you guys see that this is how I see this function. I see it as an exponent, and I hope you do too. And we use the chain rule. Everybody's nodding here. I hope you guys see it this way. And the reason I am so nice is when you take the derivative of the inside, is there any variables with it? No. When I take the derivative of 4t plus 1, do you guys agree it's just 4?
4.
Yeah.
I will probably not be that nice on the test. I will probably have the inside be like 4t squared, which means when you take the derivative of 4t squared, you're going to have like 8t out here, and your second derivative will require the product rule. All right? I like those problems. All right? So now I got to do the derivative again. It worked out cleanly, one term. Do the power rule again, or the chain rule and power rule again, f prime prime. So I get negative 1, 2 times negative half, 4 plus 1 to the negative 3 halves, times the derivative of the inside, which is 4. And that's a t. My t's are not looking too good today. All right. So I get f prime prime of t equals negative 4 times 4t. And this is where I like calculators. It asks you to find, and this, you can tell I took this from the book, right? Because it's so pretty. So it's negative 4 times 9 to the negative 3 halves equals negative 4 over 9 to the half cubed. How about negative 4/27?
No.
No.
Yeah.
Negative 4/27. I'm pretty sure.
Yep.
And that is f prime prime of 2. And if I bring that to an entire page, a lot of number calculating here, okay? But again, good review problems for the test. You should be comfortable with a problem like this also. And I'm not going to evaluate, but we should be able to get to the second derivative of a function like this. All right? We should be able to get to the second derivative of a function like this. Why don't you give that a shot? So on this problem, all right, you want the second derivative. Again, I think the most important part is you have to remember your fractional radical exponents. So we're going to see that as half, okay? And I'm going to work through 2 steps here. So f prime then is 1/2 x squared plus 3x to the negative half times, how about 2x plus 3? So the first derivative is pretty easy. All right? The next derivative is a pain in the butt. All right? You have to recognize this as a chain product rule combination. And you have to remember fg prime, right, is f prime g plus g prime f. And I will ask you for this formula on the test. All right, fill in the blank. I'll do that video here in a second. So I have to see this stuff and this as my f and my g. All right, so it's going to be a huge product rule to get to the second derivative. All right, so I'll box this, knowing this is what I want. All right. And if you're struggling with this, sometimes it's easier to say, oh, I know f is, and maybe I'll keep the half with the f, right? So I don't lose it. I know f is this, right? And I know g is that.
Just want to remind everyone that tomorrow is an early release day. We do have an early release scheduled tomorrow, and all students will be released at 12:30. So please remind your parents that tomorrow we will be getting out early. Also, I need Mackenzie Bryan, Jessica Crow, and Daniel G. Come to stop by the office before you leave today. Thank you, and everyone have a great night.
Thanks a lot.
No, 3 or 4. Hold
All
on.
right.
That makes sense.
Yeah, so it's like what, 11:15 at night?
Yeah, ish. Yeah. Now, everybody, it's kind of ugly, but you guys see the two derivatives then? And you'll notice the chain rule on the f function I picked, on the x squared plus 3x to the negative half, looks strangely familiar to the first derivative, doesn't it? All right? So now it's just simply, and since I told you not to simplify this, and I'm sure tomorrow if I give up one on the test like this, or Thursday, I mean, it wouldn't ask you to simplify. So I have to write all this out, and I'm going to do it in 2 lines because I'm out of space. I'm going to write f prime g plus g prime f. F prime is negative 1/4 x squared plus 3x to the negative 3/2 power times 2x plus 3. Now that is f prime, but you guys see that g is the same? So I'm going to write that squared, because it's 2x plus 3 times 2x plus 3. Plus, now I got to do the next line, which is g prime f. 2 times the original derivative, which was 1/2 x squared plus 3x to the negative half. Now listen, I said you didn't have to simplify. I would just leave it that way.